My name is Emily Carter, I'm 32. If you've ever been told by your own family to know your place, you're going to feel this down to the bone. For 2 years after my dad died, my mother, Vivian, told me the same story. There wasn't much left. Your father's business had debt. The house is in my name. You'll get something small when the estate settles. I believed her, because you don't expect your own mother to lie to your face while smiling like a church treasurer on Easter Sunday. But last Friday, at a black tie gala packed with city officials, CEOs, and the kind of people who talk in whispers that still sound expensive, a man in a navy suit stepped on stage, tapped the mic, and said 11 words that detonated our entire family. I have a letter from Daniel Carter, to be read out loud. The room froze. My mother's hand, resting on the back of my chair, went cold as marble. I knew then, she'd been hiding something. What came next didn't just flip a table, it burned the whole table down. And if you're the kind of person who roots for justice with receipts, buckle up. Before I take you into the ballroom where everything changed, tell me in the comments, what would you do if you found out your parent lied about your inheritance? And if you love stories where the truth punches through the lies, hit subscribe. We're going there. Dad used to say construction teaches you what's straight and what's crooked. He'd sight down a beam, squinting, then shave a sliver until it was true. Honesty is a straight cut, he'd say. You can see it from across the sight. After he died, I kept one thing on my dresser, a photo of the 3 of us in front of Carter Son Construction, our small family firm he'd grown into a regional player. In the photo, Dad's arm is around Mom, and my hard hat is too big, sliding over one eyebrow. We look like a family built on bedrock. Photos lie. The first week after the funeral, Mom moved through the house like a well-dressed fog, efficient and distant. She met with accountants I'd never met, a probate attorney named Mason, and old friends who arrived carrying condolences and left carrying manila folders. I kept waiting to be invited into those conversations. Instead, I was invited to bring coffee. Emily, sweetie, there's a lot you wouldn't understand, Mom said, stirring cream into her cup without looking at me. Law. Debt. It's complicated. I had an MBA. But sure, complicated. By month 2, Carter's son had a new sign, Carter Group. No son. No daughter. Just a slick serif font that belonged on a tech startup that had never seen a concrete truck. Mom said it was modernization. I said nothing. I was grieving, and grief makes your voice too heavy to carry. If you've ever been the capable one, you get it. Capable is just code for we'll dump everything on you and still not listen. My younger sister, Chloe, is art gallery pretty and serial entrepreneur messy. She cycles through brands like Seasons, vegan candle line, boutique PR studio, ethical athleisure dropship. She's Mom's favorite. It's not a secret. It's a family hobby. When Dad was alive, Chloe's disasters were tiny bonfires he'd stamp out with a check and a lecture. After he died, Mom converted those bonfires into lanterns and called them Vision. Me? I became reliable. The one who drafts emails, double-checks invoices, remembers the passwords, pays the property tax on time because accounts payable must have missed it. I asked for the will 3 times. Lawyers have it, Mom said. Okay, which firm? I asked. She smiled like I'd asked how ovens get hot. A reputable one. This is the moment where some of you will say, why didn't you hire your own lawyer? Because I trusted my mother. Because I thought grief had rewired her, not replaced her. Because love is not blind, it's polite, until someone knocks the politeness out of you. The first crack didn't come from a lawyer. It came from a bank teller with a soft voice and sharper eyes than people gave her credit for. I was depositing a check at Gable Savings when the teller, Ari, looked up and said, Ms. Carter, I'm so sorry for your loss. We still have a flagged note on a safe deposit account requiring a notification to, she glanced at the monitor. The primary beneficiary. She hesitated, then added carefully, that's you. Heat rose up the back of my neck. There's a what? Ari lowered her voice. Your father set it up a year ago. It's odd. No one ever responded to our certified letters after he passed. We were told by Mrs. Carter that the box was empty and to close it, but the system shows documents in custody. Legally, we can't open it without the beneficiary. I swear I heard Dad's voice in that moment. Honesty is a straight cut, M. Sight down the beam. Can I open it? I asked. Ari checked a screen, then the ceiling, then me. We'll need a court release or the joint key. Do you have a key? I didn't. But the name on her screen, joint holder, Daniel Carter / trustee, Harold Greene ESQ, burned into my brain. A lawyer I'd never met. Not Mason. Harold Greene. Can you give me Harold's number? I asked. Ari bit her lip. I can't, bank policy. But, if someone were to search the state bar directory. She slid a deposit receipt toward me. On the back in pencil, a name, Harold Greene. A street, Bayview. And a line, ask about letter. When I left the bank, my hands were shaking too hard to fit the receipt into my wallet. I tucked it in my phone case like contraband. Quick pulse check for you. If a bank teller hinted your dad left you something hidden, would you call the number right away or play it cool? Drop it below. I want to see how many of us are call now people. That night, Mom hosted a dinner that belonged in a lifestyle magazine. Magnolia blossoms, a linen runner, wine that smells like apples, old money forgot in a cellar. Chloe floated in late, kissed the air near my cheek, and told us about a pop-up gallery she was curating in Williamsburg. Dad would be so proud, Mom said, the words dressed in pearls. He always wanted you to be seen. I asked for the will again, light tone, heavy intent. Mom, I never got a copy. Could you email it? I just want to understand what Dad wanted. Silence like a glass cover over a cake you're not allowed to touch. It's standard, Mom said. The house is mine. The business continues under my guidance. Chloe gets the lake cabin. You get, she waved a hand, the Toyota and some trust distributions when the market recovers. The Toyota? Chloe snorted. That rust museum? Chloe, Mom chided. Your sister is very practical. Her smile at me felt like a pat on the head. And she knows the value of reliability. I swallowed. The Toyota was Dad's truck. Not a car, a truck with dented doors and a radio that only played country and talk radio, both at the same volume, loud. He used to let me drive it on job sites, 30 miles an hour, with dust spiraling up behind us like a comet tail. Dad told me. I started, then stopped. Dad told me isn't a legal argument. Chloe rescued the room with a new topic, her. I excused myself, took my phone, and stepped onto the back deck where the air smelled like damp cedar and a storm you can't see yet, only feel. I typed Harold Greene Bayview into the bar committee site. His profile photo looked like he'd been told not to smile, but did anyway with his eyes. Trusts Estates. Former Assistant District Attorney. Community Volunteer. A note, pro bono legal counsel for the city's Builders Scholarship Gala. I stared at that last line until pieces rearranged into a new picture, the gala scheduled for Friday. The one where Mom was receiving an award on behalf of the Carter legacy. The one where everyone who mattered would be in the room. I texted the number on his profile and introduced myself. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown, MS. Carter, Harold Greene. We need to talk. Privately. Before Friday if possible. Harold's office was in a brick building near the bay that used to be a cannery, high ceilings, industrial windows, sunlight like it was hired to make the truth look good. There were no law school diplomas on the wall, just a photo of him shaking hands with a construction crew in hard hats, and a kid's crayon drawing of a stick figure man under a rainbow labeled Herald. I don't put diplomas up, he said when he caught me looking. I find people are more honest if they're not already impressed. Were you Dad's lawyer? I asked, sitting across from him in a chair that creaked like it had secrets. He considered me for a second, as if measuring whether I had the stomach to hold what he was about to pour. I was Daniel's lawyer. There's a difference. He slid a folder across the desk. My name was on the tab, Emily Carter, Trust/SD. Letter. My fingertip touched the cardstock like it might burn. What is this? Your father set up a revocable trust, later amended, and a set of instructions in the event of family friction. He cleared his throat. He anticipated resistance. From my mother. Harold didn't answer. He didn't have to. He opened the folder. The first page bore Dad's careful block letters. He'd always printed, even on checks, as if cursive might blur his meaning. To whom it concerns. If Emily is reading this with you, it means I didn't get to say it myself. She's the one who knows how to carry a plan across the finish line. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're either selling you something or scared. My throat closed. I could hear him. I could smell sawdust. Harold flipped to the next tab, Trust Amendment. Dates. Signatures. 2 witnesses, Marisol Vega, Dad's CFO and Dr. Alan Price, his cardiologist. The amendment was 2 months before he died. It spelled out allocations, percentages, asset lists, and in the center of the page, a sentence that cracked the floor. Emily Carter is to receive controlling interest in Carter Sun Construction, now Carter Group, the lake cabin, and the Bayview lot. Vivian Carter retains the family home and an annuity. Chloe Carter receives a structured trust distribution with conditions. See Appendix B, Performance Triggers. I looked up, dizzy. Performance triggers? Harold nodded. He knew Chloe's relationship with money was imaginative. His tone was gentle but dry. He wanted her supported, not subsidized. It's not punitive, Ms. Carter. It's protective. I leaned back, the chair's creak a metronome for my pulse. Then why did Mom tell me there was basically nothing? Harold closed the folder and folded his hands. Your mother submitted a prior will to probate, 1 year older, that left everything to her, with gifts at her discretion. We've been challenging that filing in the background while I tried to reach you. She ignored certified mail. She instructed the bank to close the safe deposit box. And Friday's gala. He held my gaze. It's where I intend to force daylight. Publicly. Your father's letter was explicit. Read this where the city can hear it if you must. My family has always done its best work in the open, on job sites, in daylight. Harold let that sit between us. He wanted you protected by witnesses. I covered my mouth with my hand. When I finally spoke, my voice sounded like it had been stored in a basement. My mother will try to kill you. I've been called worse, he said, and for the first time he smiled. How do you prepare to have your life rewritten in a ballroom? You pick a dress that you can stand in for 3 hours without it turning on you. You choose shoes that won't wobble when the floor does. You rehearse saying nothing while your face says everything. I told no one except Marisol, Dad's CFO, who'd always slipped me extra hard truths with my coffee. When I called her, she didn't gasp or fuss. She said, I'll be there in the back by the soundboard, and then softer, he wanted this Was he afraid of Mom? I asked. Marisol took a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for 2 years. He was afraid of what grief would harden in her. Your mom is a woman who doesn't believe in the word enough. Grief is gasoline on that fire. I hung up and stared at my ceiling fan turning the air. You think you're ready to hear your parent might have lied to you. You're not. You never are. It's a special kind of betrayal that steals not money, but narrative. I scribbled a list the way Dad taught me to calm chaos on job sites: materials, crew, timeline, contingencies. Materials, trust docs, letter copies, ID. Crew, Harold, Marisol, me. Timeline, Harold speaks second segment, after Carter Legacy Award. Contingencies, Mom causes scene, stay still. Press asks questions, please refer to Mr. Greene. Chloe cries, don't rescue. Do not rescue. Tell me honestly, could you stay silent while someone burns your name in front of a crowd? Or would you detonate? I'm a detonate and rebuild girl. But this time, I chose stillness. Sometimes the straightest cut is no cut at all. The Bayview Civic Center ballroom smelled like polish and new money remembering old money. A string quartet poured Bach into the air like it was free. The stage had 2 lecterns and a backdrop of construction photos. Bridges Dad's company built, schools that still smell like fresh paint on the first day. Mom looked regal. She wore navy satin, a diamond brooch the size of a golf ball, and the smile of a woman confident in the math she cooked herself. Chloe arrived in a dress that looked like liquid rose gold and an entourage of influencers who whisper-screamed about lighting angles. When people saw me, their eyes slid past the dutiful daughter position and landed on something else, something sharp enough to make them uncertain. Maybe it was the way I wasn't carrying a clipboard. Maybe it was the silence I wore like armor. The MC, a councilman with perfect hair and imperfect ethics, opened with the usual jokes. He gave the Carter Legacy Award to Mom with a speech that used the word resilience so many times it stopped meaning anything. Mom stepped up, dabbed at eyes that weren't crying, and thanked the community, my late husband's vision, and my daughters, Chloe, who is launching her 3rd brand this year, and Emily, who keeps the trains running. I felt it like a chalk line across my chest, Emily, who keeps the trains running. Reliable. Invisible. Necessary like duct tape. They were about to transition to the donor recognition when the MC added, and we have a special presentation from attorney Harold Greene in honor of Daniel Carter's contributions to the scholarship fund. The air shifted. People who knew the smell of a storm recognized it. Harold walked to the lectern, navy suit, eyes like steady water. He thanked the councilman. He thanked the scholarship committee. And then he said the 11 words. I have a letter from Daniel Carter, to be read out loud. You could hear pearls clench. Mom's smile hardened. I wasn't informed, she started, but Harold's voice rolled over her like a truck over gravel. Per Daniel Carter's explicit instructions, read this where the city can hear it if you must. He slipped a single sheet from a red envelope. Read. Dad loved a symbol. To my city. To my crew. To the people who build and the ones who write the checks. If you're hearing this, I didn't get to tell you in person what matters most. Not concrete, not cranes. People. And of those people, my daughter Emily is the straightest cut I ever saw. She's the one who shows up when it rains and stays until the punch list is done. If you need a bridge built or a budget balanced, call Emily. Asterisk. Murmurs. Heads turned toward me like iron filings to a magnet. I've made mistakes. I put beauty before honesty sometimes. I mistook charisma for character. That's on me. But I will not make one mistake. I will not leave my company in hands that love spotlights more than steel. The amended trust is in place. Emily holds controlling interest in Carter's son. Call it whatever you want, but remember who poured the first slab. Vivian has the house and an annuity. Chloe has a protected trust that requires traction, not hashtags. Oh, and the safe deposit box you tried to close? That's where I put the keys, literal and metaphorical. A gasp rippled like a sheet being snapped. Mom's hand gripped the back of my chair so hard the wood protested. If anyone lies about this, if anyone says there wasn't much or it's complicated, know this, I left receipts. And I left a question for Emily to ask out loud so I'd know she's the one who received this letter. Harold looked up, eyes finding mine. MS. Carter, what was the phrase your father used on job sites when a beam was true? The room watched me stand. My mouth was dry, but the answer tasted like sawdust and sunlight. Honesty is a straight cut. Harold nodded once, like a baton exchanged in a race. Confirmed. For a second, there was nothing. No strings. No whispers. Then the MC moved, but not toward Harold, toward the exit. Coward. Mom took the other lectern. This is highly irregular, she said, voice steady with that particular brand of control people mistake for class. My husband was unwell his last months. He was confused. We've already settled the estate. This is theater. Harold didn't look at her. He addressed the audience. For those concerned about Daniel's capacity, Dr. Alan Price, his cardiologist, and Marisol Vega, his CFO, witnessed the amendment. The court has been notified. And the bank was instructed, improperly, to close a safe deposit box still holding trust instruments. That attempt is documented. Phones lifted like periscopes. Somewhere in the back, a reporter sensed a promotion. Chloe's voice piped up near the dais, thin as spun sugar. "This is slander," she said. "My mother would never." "It's not slander if it's true," Marisol said from the back, her voice carrying just enough. I felt the weight shift in the room, like a building recalculating load. Secrets are heavy. So is relief. Some moments arrive honest and simple: stay or go. There's no choreography for dignity. You just pick it up and walk. Mom leaned into the mic. "Emily, don't be dramatic. Come up here and support your family." My legs are long, but they felt like rebar. I walked to the stage, not to stand behind my mother, but to stand beside Harold. "Ms. Carter," a reporter called, already too close. "Did your mother misrepresent the estate?" I looked at the crowd, the donors, the councilmen, the crew from 3 job sites who'd come in work boots with their wives in borrowed dresses. I thought of Ari at the bank, pencil on a receipt. I thought of Dad's belief that work should be seen in daylight. "I'm not making any statement tonight," I said, my voice steady. "Please refer to Mr. Greene." I turned to my mother. Up close, she smelled like expensive powder and fear. "You did this," she hissed through a smile. "You humiliated me." "You humiliated yourself," I said, low. "When you lied." Her eyes flashed the warning all mothers learn when a toddler reaches for a socket. "You'll regret this." I regret staying quiet for 2 years. Chloe tried to grab my arm. Don't torch the family. We can fix optics." "Optics?" I laughed, but without humor. "You tried to erase me." I stepped away from the lectern and off the stage into the aisle cleared by curiosity and a little fear. Marisol met me halfway, slipped her hand through my elbow like we were prom dates with a court date. As we reached the doors, Harold's voice followed. "For anyone concerned about the scholarships, the fund is secure. Daniel planned for this. The only thing changing tonight is that the rightful trustee takes her seat." The ballroom erupted. Not cheers, not boos, but noise, the sound of a city waking up in the middle of a performance and realizing the script was swapped. Outside, the air was clean and night cold. The bay threw moonlight at us like coins. Marisol exhaled a laugh. "You did it." "I did what?" "You didn't rescue them." I looked back through the glass at the ballroom, at my mother gesturing like a general who still believes the troops are listening. "Not tonight." The internet doesn't sleep, and neither do scandals. By the time I got home, my phone had turned into a slot machine possessed by ghosts. Unknown numbers, texts from numbers saved as "do not answer," emails from reporters who used circle back like a prayer. There was a video already, of course there was, shot shaky from the back, captioned with a line that made me snort, "Willgate at the Bayview Ball." The comments were split between Team Mom and Team Receipts. Strangers argued like relatives at Thanksgiving. I made tea I didn't drink and sat at the table Dad built for our kitchen when I was 12, the one with saw marks he called character. I laid out the folder Harold had given me: Trust, Amendment, Letter, Appendix B. The titles looked like skulls lined on a mantle. I flipped to Appendix B. The performance triggers were specific: quarterly milestones for Chloe's distributions tied to employment, education, sobriety, and no new debt without approval. Protective, not punitive. And brilliant in a way that made my chest ache. Dad didn't just build buildings. He engineered the people he loved toward safety. My phone buzzed across the table like a trapped fly. "Marisol. You good?" she texted. I typed, "Not yet. But I will be." "Press is going to call hard tomorrow," she wrote. "Harold's got them. Also, check your email. Dr. Price sent the capacity letter. It's airtight." I opened my laptop. Subject: Daniel Carter, Statement of Capacity. I skimmed, the words clean and firm like a polished handrail. Then another email pinged, Ari from the bank. Subject: Safe Deposit Box Emily, per Mr. Greene's authorization and court communication. We are ready for you to access Box 314 tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please bring ID. Ari. In the quiet of my kitchen, A thought arrived that I tried to shoo away, but it perched anyway. What if the box is empty? What if Dad intended to fix it but didn't get there? What if all I've got is paper and a ballroom memory destined to be chewed into content? I closed my eyes and saw his hands, scarred strong, the hands that built porches and cradled my feverish forehead. He'd done what he said he'd do. Straight cuts, M. At 1:17 a.m., a text glow lit the room. Chloe. Chloe, Mom says you ambushed her. You're sick. Chloe, I can't believe you'd do this at a charity event. Chloe, delete your little lawyer. We're family. Family handles things privately. Chloe M? Hello? I let the texts stack into a tower of guilt I refused to climb. Gable Savings at 9:58 a.m. on a grey Saturday morning looks like a waiting room for plot twists. Ari greeted me with a look that said she'd told herself not to be excited and failed. Ready? She asked. About as ready as a person can be to open a box her father sent from beyond the grave, I said. She smiled. Fair. She led me through a door marked authorized personnel only, down a hall that smelled faintly of old envelopes, and into a vault that oozed seriousness. Box 314 slid out with a metallic sigh. Ari placed it on a small table, then stepped back. I'll give you privacy. Hands steady, M. Straight cuts. I opened the lid. Inside, a ring of keys tagged in Dad's block letters, cabin/yard/Bayview/blue, a flash drive labeled ledger, a worn envelope addressed to Emily in Dad's print, a deed, Bayview lot, transferred to Emily Carter, held in trust until release, a handwritten inventory with checkboxes, house deed Vivian. Annuity, Vivian. Company shares, Emily. Trust, Chloe. Ledgers, C drive. Blue key equals Unit 5C. I slid the letter out. Dad's words hit like sunlight through blinds. Hey, Bug. If you're in the vault, I'm proud of you for not letting anyone talk you out of it. Vivian doesn't know about this box. If she does, she'll say it's fraudulent because she believes whatever she needs to believe to sleep at night. Keys, cabin, changed locks, yard equipment, Bayview, you'll see, blue, storage unit 5C, harbor storage. The storage unit has paper, contracts, payroll, a ledger you'll want to hand to Harold. Don't confront people with feelings. Confront them with math. One more thing. If my name gets dragged for unwell, call Dr. Price. He'll set it straight. If they say you're cold for doing this, remember, cold steel holds a bridge up. Love, Dad. I sat there in that tiny vault chair, holding a letter that felt warmer than the sun. When I looked up, Ari was watching, eyebrows knit in a prayer she'd tell you wasn't a prayer. You okay? She asked. I nodded, tears I didn't authorize sliding anyway. Yeah. I'm finally okay. Harbor storage sits in that sad strip of town where businesses go to decide who they are. I parked Dad's Toyota, yes, the Rust Museum, between a dented SUV and a shiny Tesla and laughed out loud at the visual. Life is a parody where money is a costume that fools nobody up close. Unit 5C rolled open like a garage door, revealing a life paused. Inside, banker boxes labeled in Dad's print, a file cabinet, and a framed newspaper article of Dad receiving a Builder of the Year award with Vivian beaming at his side. I started with the boxes labeled ledger. The first held spiral notebooks with dates, job names, numbers in tidy columns. Another held USB drives and a burner phone. What? With a cracked screen. Tucked under a stack of invoices was a smaller box labeled Vivian. I opened it. Inside, folders with neat tabs, cash withdrawals, Vivian, vendor contracts, Vivian private, charity donations, Vivian, consultant, Mason. I didn't breathe for a minute. Numbers tell stories. These told a heist dressed in pearls. Cash pulled from the company labeled as consulting, branding, events routed to accounts Chloe controlled. Donations to charities where Mom sat on the board. Invoices from a consultant with Mason's name. I texted Harold, need you at Harbor Storage 5C. Bring a scanner and your comm voice. He arrived with a portable scanner like he expected the request. We set up a factory line. Harold scanning, me sorting, my heart turning into a quiet machine. Your mother is thorough, he said, which is lawyer for brazen. This is misappropriation at best. At worst, well, we'll let the DA label it. Are we pressing charges? I asked, the words foreign in my mouth. She's my mother. We're protecting Daniel's intent, he said. Then, softer, and you. In a back corner of the unit under a tarp, we found what the Bayview key belonged to, a metal lockbox bolted to a crate. Inside, a contract with Bayview Medical for a lucrative outpatient expansion, signed by Dad 2 weeks before he died. Tucked behind it, a handwritten note. This is for Emily to build. Don't let anyone slap their name on it because their dress photographs well. I laughed, an ugly, beautiful bark. He knew. He always knew, Harold said. When your mother calls and leaves 14 voicemails in an hour, you either change your number or decide to be a grown-up. I chose grown-up, or whatever version passes for it when you're about to accuse the woman who taught you to tie your shoes of stealing your inheritance. I texted, we need to talk. House. 6 p.m. Harold will be there. Her reply pinged instantly, no lawyers. Family only. Family is why a lawyer is coming, I typed, then put my phone face down because I didn't like the reflection of myself I saw in it. Jaw clenched, eyes hard. At 6 p.m., I walked into the house I grew up in and watched memory argue with reality in the entryway mirror. Mom stood by the mantel, Chloe perched on the sofa like a cat prepared to be offended. You've embarrassed us, Mom began. The gala, good Lord, Emily. Your father would be mortified. Dad would be relieved, I said. Harold set his briefcase on the coffee table like a judge placing a gavel. Mrs. Carter, we're here to resolve control of Carter's son per the trust amendment. Your filing of the older will is being addressed. In the interim, we're requesting immediate handover of corporate records. Mom's smile could cut glass. You'll get nothing without a court order. Harold slid a sheet across the table. Court order, temporary restraining order asset transfer/destruction. Her smile didn't so much crumble as shiver. This is outrageous, Chloe said. We're family. I met her gaze. Family doesn't forge filings and try to erase a daughter. Erase? Don't be dramatic. You got the Toyota, Chloe said before she could stop herself. I couldn't help it. I laughed, then covered my mouth. You tried to sell the Toyota last year. I found the Craigslist listing. Because it looks like poverty, Mom snapped. We are not poor. I won't have you driving that eyesore into board meetings. I won't have you lying into microphones, I shot back. Harold let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then he opened his briefcase and placed on the table copies of the trust, amendment, capacity letter, and ledger excerpts with sticky notes in his neat lawyer hand, withdrawals, Mason, donations. Mom didn't touch them. People who need control don't touch things they can't control. She went for dignity instead. I did what I had to do to protect this family. You protected your social calendar, I said. You tried to bury Dad's plans because they didn't fit your brand. Watch your tone, she said, and there it was, the mother tone you hear when you're 5 and about to knock over a water glass. I'm 32, I said. My tone belongs to me. Harold cleared his throat. Mrs. Carter, you have 2 choices. Cooperate, peaceful transition, annuity honored, home secure. Or contest, and we present the ledger to the DA and the press who are currently very interested. Chloe stood up. You're blackmailing my mother. It's not blackmail, Harold said, almost kindly. It's consequences. Mom's eyes went to the mantel, our family photo, the one that lied. She touched the frame, then set it back exactly straight. Daniel always loved your competence, she said, the word sharp as attack. He mistook your coldness for strength. I let the words land and then fall to the floor where they belonged. Cold steel holds a bridge, I said. You raised me to be useful. I am. Just not to your story. She inhaled slowly, chewed her pride, and swallowed. What do you want? Control of the company. Keys. Passwords. The cabin. The Bayview lot. And you admit, in writing, that you misrepresented the estate. Chloe made a sound like a tea kettle. Absolutely not. Mom stared at me the way you look at a storm you don't think you deserve. Then she said a word she hates: fine. Monday morning, I walked into Carter's Son. Yes, I told the sign guy to add back the son, and then add daughter underneath in a font that made my heart stupidly happy, and stepped into Dad's office. The air held the faintest trace of his aftershave and the loudest trace of absence. Marisol met me with a binder and a look of let's build. The crew gathered in the conference room, men and women with hands that do things that matter. I told them the truth. Not the PR-combed version. The truth. We were going to finish the Bayview medical expansion Dad signed. We were going to audit every line. We were going to pay vendors on time. And if anyone had been told by anyone that we were restructuring, the only thing restructuring was the sign. A hand went up. Derek, site foreman, a man whose shoulders could serve as shelves. You in charge for real? He asked, no disrespect, just a worker's economy of words. For real, I said. He nodded once, then again. 'Bout time. On my new desk, Dad's old desk, I placed 3 things: his hard hat, the letter, and the blue key, because sometimes you keep totems where you can see them to remember who you are when people try to tell you otherwise. By noon, Harold texted, "Press wants a statement. I can do boilerplate, or you can say something simple and human." I typed back, "Simple and human." Then I wrote, "Statement from Emily Carter, my father trusted me with his life's work. I'm honoring that trust. We'll build what we say we'll build in daylight, with straight cuts. Emily Carter, Carter's Son Construction. No hashtags. No influencers. No slick." At 4:12 p.m., my phone buzzed with a number saved long ago as Mason. I stared at it until it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, my office line rang. Marisol picked up, listened, then transferred with a face like she'd swallowed a lemon. "MS. Carter," Mason said smoothly. "So much excitement. Listen, we don't have to." "We're not on the same side," I said. He laughed lightly. "Everyone's on the same side, money. I can help you manage optics. We can spin." "We don't spin. We build." He exhaled into the receiver like a man hearing a verdict he expected. "You know your mother can make things difficult. My mother made choices. I'm making different ones. Your father and I had an understanding," he tried. "That understanding ended when you built the company for consulting, while helping my mother bury a trust." I let the word hang like a dent in a car door nobody planned to fix. Expect contact from Harold. When I hung up, my hands were steady. Maybe because I was holding something heavier than anger, clarity. I didn't expect my mother to show up at the office. She hates fluorescent lights and functional carpet. But at 5:03 p.m., she walked in wearing surrender like perfume, light deniable. "I came to see the sign," she said. "It's not finished," I said. "Like us." She took in Dad's hard hat on my desk, the blue key, the way people look through her instead of at her now. Power is a muscle. When you don't use it honestly, it atrophies in public. "I did what I thought was best," she said, looking at a point over my shoulder where I used to stand when I was 12 handing Dad a wrench I called a silver thing. "I think you did what felt good," I said. "Those aren't the same." Her jaw softened in a way I'd seen only once, when Dad came home late and she'd reheated dinner 3 times, pretending not to care. "You're hard," she said, like it was an indictment. "I'm held up," I said. "There's a difference." We stood in the office that belonged to him and now to me and to a line we're still drawing. She touched the desk, the corner he'd sanded too much on purpose because he liked edges that didn't bite. "He always said you'd be the one," she whispered. "Then why did you?" "Because if I couldn't control the future, I wanted to curate it." She laughed, small and awful. "Curation is just control in a nicer dress." I didn't forgive her. That's not a switch. But something unclenched in my chest. Not for her. For me. "You'll get your annuity," I said. "You'll keep the house. But the next time you try to sign my name to a story I didn't write, remember I know how to read." She nodded once. The diamond brooch on her lapel looked too heavy for the fabric. You sound like your father. I smiled, the first unarmed smile I'd made in 2 years. Good. At dusk, I drove the Toyota out to the Bayview lot Dad left me. The site looked like promise. Rebar cages waiting, forms stacked, earth graded for something that will make people's lives better. A gull wheeled overhead, loud and ridiculous, and I laughed because joy sounds like that sometimes. I walked the perimeter with the Bayview key on a lanyard around my neck like a talisman. I stood where the entry would be, sighted down an imaginary beam, and said, out loud to no one and to him, "Straight cuts, Dad." My phone buzzed. Unknown number with a 917 area code. I almost let it go. I answered. MS. Carter. A woman said, crisp and curious. Bayview Medical. We heard about the changes. We're ready when you are. I looked at the graded earth, the sky bleeding into orange, the city that had watched my family lie and watched us straighten anyway. We'll pour Monday, I said. Daylight. You'll see the crew on site. I hung up and let the evening sit on my shoulders like a coat that finally fits. If you're still watching, here's where I ask you, what would you build if someone finally handed you the keys they promised years ago? And if you've ever had a parent, a partner, a boss try to rewrite your story, tell me in the comments how you took the pen back. I read every one. To be continued. Concrete trucks look like patients with a drum. They rumble in early, line up like elephants, and wait for the signal. Monday 6:02 a.m., Bayview lot glowed under rental lights. The rebar skeletons sparkled with dew. Derek and the crew wore that particular early morning focus that makes coffee nervous. The air smelled like diesel and new chances. A white Range Rover nosed to the curb like entitlement. Chloe stepped out in oversized sunglasses and a trench that had never seen rain. Behind her, 2 local culture bloggers from last night's DMs scrambled for angles. She called, voice bouncing off the plywood fencing. We need to talk optics before you pour. Talk later, I said, checking my watch. We hit slump tests at 6:15. She laughed like I'd offered to juggle bricks. This is content, babe. The city needs to see who's responsible for Bayview. People know, Mom. They don't know this version of you. Good, I said. They'll learn by the building. She stepped closer, dropped her voice. Mom's meeting with Mason. She'll file for an injunction. If you pour, you'll look reckless. Or decisive. I turned. Derek, you good? He checked the test cylinder, nodded once. Mix is true. Let's pour. The outriggers planted. The boom arced like a mechanical crane's neck and felt indestructible. The first river of concrete slid down the chute, gray, thick, determined. Somebody's life will happen on this floor. Babies will be carried across it, bad news will sit heavy on it, good news will lift off it like helium. We owe the slab honesty. Stop. A voice cut through the hum. Mom. Navy suit, pearls, heels that hated soil. Mason behind her, smoothed hair, smoothed nouns. A process server hustled to keep up, clutching a manila envelope like it might bite. MS. Carter. The server squeaked. You've been served. Derek didn't flinch. Keep the pump steady, he said into his radio. Mom reached the caution tape, did not duck, and tore it off like she was done being told where to walk. You will cease immediately, she announced, as if the concrete cared. I took the envelope, handed it to Harold, who stepped from my shadow like an answer. Temporary restraining order, denied, he said, scanning. This is a notice of intent to file, not a filed order. You can't stop a pour with a hope. Mason pivoted to lawyer voice. Our filing is imminent. Proceeding could constitute bad faith construction, exposing MS. Carter too. Proceed, I said. We're within our permits and our rights. And if you angle for headlines today, make them public. Daylight's generous to honest work. I turned to Chloe. You want content? Film that. I pointed to the men and women guiding the hose, smoothing the surface, checking edge forms. That's what building looks like. Quick poll for you watching. Who here has had someone wave paperwork like a magic wand to stop your progress? Did you keep moving or freeze? Drop your playbook. I want the strategies you'd hand your past self. The pump roared. The slab began. Mom's face broke in a way I hadn't seen. Something between fury and fear, a cliff edge where her shoes had no traction. You think you've won, she said. No, I said. I think we've started. If paper is evidence, a ledger is a confession. Harold and I sat in Dad's office with the flash drive labeled ledger plugged into my laptop like a detonator with manners. Folders bloomed, AR/AP, payroll, off-book Mason. In off-book, spreadsheets hid like snakes, event allocations, board gifts, consultant slush. The tabs told a story Dad had smelled long before me, money redirected by vernacular. Consulting dressed theft in a tie. Don't confront people with feelings, Dad had written. Confront them with math. So we did. We built a timeline, transactions, signatures, dates, witness memos. Harold's calm took the oxygen from panic. I forwarded a pack to Marisol. She replied 2 words, it's time. We filed a civil action outlining misappropriation and requested a criminal referral. Harold's email to the DA's office landed like a gavel. Subject, potential fraud / Carter's son construction. By dusk, a reporter I actually respected, Nate On from the Bayview Ledger, requested an interview. Off-record background, he said. We won't run scandal. We'll run accountability. Tomorrow 8 a.m., I said. On site. Wear boots. He laughed. Copy that. I'd expected Chloe to scorch earth. Instead, she sent a voice memo at 1:13 a.m., words catching like a dress hem. I don't know what I'm supposed to do if this is true. If Dad wrote things about me. Like that. Like I can't manage money unless there's a leash. That hurts, Em. It hurts in a place you don't like to talk about. I listened in the dark, the city a low tide outside my window. I replied with text. It wasn't a leash. It was a railing. He built you a railing so you wouldn't fall. Let's talk. Noon. No cameras. Just us. At noon, we sat in the cabin Dad left me, now ours, because I wasn't a villain collecting trophies. The place smelled like pine and clean air. Light moved across the wood like a cat. Do you think I'm useless? She asked, eyes shiny without mascara drama. No, I said. I think you're brilliant at starting and allergic to finishing. Dad knew that. He wasn't punishing you. He was saying, finish something. She looked around, taking in a space that had always been ours on weekends but never mine on paper. He left this to you. I'm not mad at that. I'm mad that he thought I needed training wheels. You do, I said gently. So do I. Mine are checklists. Yours are structure. We all have gear. She let the words move through her. If I hit the triggers, if I do the work, the distributions come? Yes. And the work will feel better than the money. She laughed, surprising both of us. You sound like Dad. Good. We made a deal at the table he carved. I'd pair her with a real operations lead for her next venture. She'd agree to sobriety, budget, deliverables, and therapy. Not because paper said so. Because growing up is a series of unflattering agreements with yourself. Will you come to 1 session? She asked, small. Yes, I said. 1. The rest you do. She nodded. Sometimes the biggest twist isn't scandal, it's someone you love choosing adulthood in real time. Nate from the Ledger wore boots like he meant it. He watched Derek's crew finish the slab and asked simple questions most PR people hate. Who gets paid first? How do change orders work? What happens when a vendor can't deliver? Vendors get paid on time, I said. Change orders are documented, not whispered. If a vendor can't deliver, we tell the truth. Then fix it and don't charge for our mistake. Wild, he said, grinning. Radical honesty. I walked him to the perimeter. Write about systems, not just scandal. People think corruption is a few bad apples. It's also bad process. He nodded, eyes bright. City needs that story. At noon, DA's office called to schedule an interview. At 2, Mason went on a radio show to talk about grieving widows and ungrateful daughters. At 3, my inbox lit, whistleblower email from a vendor who'd been asked for donations to a foundation mom chaired. Harold replied with instructions and protection. At 6, I stood alone on the slab as it set, the city around me moving in its tired, hopeful way. If you've ever watched poured concrete cure, you know restraint. Don't touch the thing you built too soon. Don't rush the strong. DA Suarez had the stern kindness of a pediatrician who also knows jiu-jitsu. ADA Kim asked the tight questions, Harold answered the tight answers. I told the story with math. Did you confront your mother before coming to us? Suarez asked. I confronted her with boundaries, I said. Not with evidence. Evidence goes to you. Kim looked pleased, which is how you know a prosecutor believes you won't waste their calendar. Will you go forward if this becomes criminal? Suarez asked. I'll go forward with whatever protects the company, the fund, and the truth, I said. If you're asking if I want my mother in a jumpsuit, no. I want change. If accountability requires consequences, that's on the actions, not on me. Kim made a note. That'll play well with a jury. Not playing, I said. Building. Families don't implode quietly. Aunt Linda called to say I'd embarrassed the name. Uncle Ray left a voicemail reminding me he'd helped with the down payment in '98, as if that bought him moral equity forever. One cousin DM'd me a meme of a woman cutting a rope bridge she was standing on. I answered no one. Mom issued a statement through Mason, regret over misunderstandings, deep grief, committed to privacy. It was the kind of paragraph that dissolves in water. Nate published his piece, Rebar, Receipts, and the Carter Way, How Systems Fail and Get Fixed. He included photos of the slab, quotes from Derek, and 3 simple infographics that made people who don't read think anyway. Public sentiment tipped. It wasn't Team Emily. It was Team Daylight. Slabs need fire watch. Someone responsible for the site in the vulnerable hours. I took first shift. At 11:23 p.m., a shadow peeled from the fence line. Mom stepped into light, cardigan over her night aristocracy. You're doing fire watch, she said, almost amused. I am. Daniel used to do this. The way she said his name this time sounded like a pension she missed, not a man she loved. He taught me to. She looked at the floodlights, the portable toilet, the coils of rebar like sleeping spines. I filed to step down from boards, she said, the word tasting like ash. I returned some money. Returned. That was something. I'm not asking your forgiveness, she said. I'm asking your mercy. Mercy without confession is branding, I said. She flinched. Then, to her credit, she nodded. I told the DA I routed funds through avenues that were not approved. I will repay and accept the outcome. I didn't hug her. I didn't deliver a TV movie line. I handed her a folding chair. Sit, I said. Help me watch. We sat in silence while concrete cured and a few raccoons argued in the alley. She shivered. I gave her Dad's jacket I kept in the truck. She put it on without perfume face. Around 2:11 a.m., she said, I lied because I thought if I controlled the story, I could control the loss. You cannot curate grief, I said. Only survive it. Teach me, she said softly. I can't, I said. But boundaries will. The blue drive had one folder we hadn't opened, video. At the cabin the next evening, Chloe and I pressed play on a file named For My Girls. Dad sat at his office desk, looking a little like he'd argued with a stapler. He smiled into the camera, lines around his eyes telling the truth about time. Hey Bugs. If you're watching this, it means I didn't get to narrate the last steps. That happens. Work the plan. He talked to us like we were standing there with sawdust in our hair. Vivian, if you're in the room, please listen instead of deciding. I did not undercut you. I gave our daughters rails so we all don't go over the edge. You raised elegance. I raised honesty. Both matter. But one holds up bridges. He laid out the why, not just the what. He apologized for the ways he'd chosen work over birthdays. He told Chloe she was spark with legs and needed a windbreak. He told me I was steel wrapped in chamomile and needed to remember the chamomile. When it ended, Chloe and I sat in the flicker. Spark with legs, she whispered, watery smiling. Cold steel with tea, I said, and we both laughed and cried in the way only sisters can, ugly and gorgeous. 3 weeks later, a probate hearing looked like a DMV married a courtroom. Judge Ramirez ran a tight docket. Mason looked narrowed and less moisturized. Harold presented the amended trust, capacity statement, and ledger summary. Mason attempted confusion as a defense. Ramirez preferred facts to adjectives. The court recognizes the amended trust, she said, voice a stamp. Control of Carter Son Construction, aka Carter Group, vests with Emily Carter. The court orders immediate transfer of corporate custody, including digital assets. The court notes concerning financial irregularities and concurs with criminal referral already in process. Mom stared straight ahead. When Ramirez asked if she understood, she said, "Yes, Your Honor," and her voice didn't wobble. Mercy aligns better with posture than tears. Chloe squeezed my hand. "Finish line," she whispered. "Punch list," I whispered back. Builders never say finish line. We say punch list, the honest list at the end that proves we did what we promised. Bayview Medical's board invited me to present the project plan. I wore the suit that didn't make me itch and Dad's watch we'd found in the storage unit, the band warm from my skin. I laid out timeline, budget, risk, and mitigation the way Dad taught me, no fluff, just what holds. A board member asked, "What happens if donors balk because of drama?" "We build anyway," I said. "Our contract isn't with gossip. It's with patience. We'll fund gap with cost control, vendor relationships, and transparency you can test." The chair smiled. Approved. When I stepped outside, Nate waited with a camera guy and a question. "One quote," he said. "You've got people's attention. What do you want them to take away?" I looked into the lens and thought of you. Yes, you, watching this, wondering if your own slab will ever set. "Quit trying to look strong," I said. "Be straight. Tell the truth in daylight. Then build." Chloe hit her first trigger, 3 months sober, PL reviewed by a real CFO, product launched and shipped, on time. We celebrated with tacos and Topo Chico. She handed me a small envelope, handmade, messy, perfect. Inside, a Polaroid of us at 5 and 7 in Dad's truck, tongues out, road dust haloed behind us. On the back, she'd written, "Thanks for being my railing." I put it in my wallet behind my license. Identity and reminder side by side. Mom started volunteering at the Builders Scholarship Office. Not as chair. As staff. The first day she called and said, "Where do we keep the stamps?" Like she was relearning gravity. She sent me a photo of a stack of scholarship letters she'd addressed. "Daylight," she typed. It was the closest she'd come to "I'm learning." I kept my boundaries like a job. Weekly dinner, no money. Holidays, yes. Fund boards, no. If she tried to drift into curation, I redirected with a joke. If she drifted into confession, I listened without awarding instant absolution like a prize at a church fair. People think triumph is a banner. Sometimes it's a calendar with squares you don't break. 6 months later, Bayview Outpatient Pavilion smelled like fresh paint and lemon sanitizer, a combination that means we did it. The ribbon looked ridiculous. That's what ribbons do. But people like symbols because symbols hold crowd emotions like bowls. Marisol stood beside me in a suit the color of earned respect. Derek cleaned under his nails with a small screwdriver that HR would hate but culture understands. Nate took notes by hand. Ori from the bank slipped in near the back, eyes shining like she'd bet on the right horse and been proved right. Mom arrived in a simple dress, no brooch, a quietness I believed. Chloe wore a pantsuit and stood with her ops lead, a woman with a spreadsheet aura I adored on sight. The mayor spoke like mayors do. The hospital CEO thanked donors and crews. Then he handed me the comically large scissors. I stepped to the mic and took a breath that tasted like concrete dust and coffee and 20 years. When my dad taught me to sight down a beam, I said, he'd say, honesty is a straight cut M. You can see it from across the sight. When we started this project, there were a lot of people telling a lot of stories. We decided to tell one story, the truth. The truth about where the money goes, when the work starts, and who gets credit, the crew. So this ribbon isn't about me. It's about every poured slab, every signed invoice, every fire watch shift at 2 a.m. It's about daylight. I looked down at my mother. She looked back like a woman who'd had to learn the hard way that daylight doesn't ask permission. If you're watching and you're stuck in a story someone else scripted for you, I said, and here's the interactive part, because you know I see you in the comments, write your own line. You don't need their pen. You just need straight cuts. We cut the ribbon. The room clapped. I didn't cry. After the photos, a small crowd clustered around the new bronze plaque. Carter Son Construction looked lovely. Underneath, a smaller line, daughter. Derek grunted approval. About time. Chloe touched the ampersand with a fingertip. Dad would make a dumb joke, she said. He'd say the ampersand looks like rebar doing yoga, I said. We laughed the lamest, best laugh. Mom stepped up, traced the letters like Braille for regret. I'm sorry, she said, not to the room, not with a microphone. To me. Not just for the money. For the erasure. It was easier to call you reliable than to admit you were right. I don't need you to call me right, I said. I need you to live straight. I will, she said. Or I'll try. Keep a chair for me at fire watch. Always, I said. That night, the cabin windows were open to crickets. The letter from Dad sat framed on the mantel, not as a shrine, but as a tool you keep handy. Chloe and I made tea, chamomile for me because he wasn't wrong, peppermint for her because she likes things that announce themselves. We toasted with mugs. To rails, she said. To slabs, I said. My phone buzzed with a dozen messages from crews, vendors, scholarship kids, neighbors who'd watched the whole messy miracle. I scrolled slowly like a person who doesn't have to sprint anymore. One DM stopped me. A woman I don't know wrote, I watched your story. My mother hid a letter too, different content, same lie. Today I called my own Harold. Thank you. I sat with that one a minute longer than the rest. That's the point of daylight, it shows other people the switch. Before bed, I drove the Toyota to the Bayview parking lot, parked crooked on purpose like Dad used to, and walked the walkway we poured. It felt solid underfoot in the way I want my life to feel when I'm 80. I looked up and said, we built it, Dad. The wind did that leaf rattle thing it does when you need a response, and I imagined him grinning, thumb hooked in his belt. On my way back to the truck, I passed a family reading the directory. The little boy traced the words with his finger, lips moving. Outpatient, pavilion, he said, proud of himself. Pavilion, I said kindly. You got it. He grinned at me, gap-toothed, and for a moment the whole city felt like a job site where everyone showed up, where nobody walked off with the tools, where lunch happens when the work does, where honesty is a straight cut and you can see it from across the site. If you made it here, I want to hear your version. What ribbon are you ready to cut? What ledger are you willing to open? Drop a comment with one honest next step. That's how you pour the slab. I read every single one. And if this story put a little steel in your chamomile, hit subscribe, there's more to build.